How you
How's it going?
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to talk to you. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast. Very honored. Thank
Of
you.
course, of course. I've been following your page for quite a while. I do enjoy your Mandic Mondays a lot. I mean, who wouldn't?
Oh, there, believe me or not, there's several people who unfollow every Monday. You'd be
My God.
surprised on Mandic Monday, and which is okay for me because I always think of it as like, okay, well, I'm weeding out the people that just can't like get it or they don't
Right.
understand the humor. And also, if you're going to be that bothered by vintage male strippers, like, come on, have a sense of humor. Is it really bothering you that much? But
Well,
I guarantee you, every Monday,
uh,
I I see on someone follows, and you don't see the people who unfollow you. You just see it, and you're like, ah, okay. But I've been doing it now for over 2 years, and I'm not about to stop.
yeah, I know. I saw the story you put about somebody asking you to change the song. Like, why does it bother them so much?
Well, what was really funny is that I kind of thought I was joking, but I still laid in and said no. And he was like, no, you can do it. It's free country. It sucks. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's serious. But when the guy did that, I was like, great. I'm going to post this in my stories so the other followers can see this and crack up. Now, I didn't use his name. I didn't, call him out that way so people would ever gang up or anything. But
Right.
when people do that to me from rare time to time, it turns into great content because
Oh yeah.
I love showing people like this is how ridiculous some people can be. I mean, you're attacking somebody on their own page about what their creative vision is, and yeah. And by the way, I'm very conscious about running that Murray McDougal "You're My Number One" song into the ground. That's totally intentional, and that's not going to change.
Yeah, well, and also there's a mute button that you can turn
Yeah.
off the sound, and you can also scroll if you don't want to see, hot guys
Yeah,
and
yeah, you can also unfollow. It's his thing was it's a free country. I'm like, yep, and your free country, you can always unfollow. It's totally
yeah.
fine. I mean, look, I will say this: the page is a community, and everybody interacts, and a lot of comments come in. That's half the fun is people coming in. So it isn't just me, and so I am conscious about people and interacting and what they want to see and what they don't want to see. And believe me, there is time when I come across content where I'm like, should I post that? And like, ooh, that's in real bad taste. I can't go that far. Like I
Yeah.
there's a line that I go up to. But when it comes to the silly stuff, like the
Oh yeah.
Mandic Monday, I'm like, oh my God, guys, come on. It's all fun. I've had people tell me that they know it's Monday when when
Oh yeah.
when this male stripper stuff comes on, which is
Uh-huh.
just too funny.
Well, and
Uh
it's just great because it's harkening back. I mean, you're older than I, but not crazy much older. I mean, I was born
oh
in
I
78.
I'm 72. So yes, I'm a 52 guy right
Yeah.
now, which is
So,
crazy.
so that era, like, I remember, my sexual awakenings was like 80s man
Oh yeah.
hunks.
Yep. Hmm. Yeah.
And
I'm
so, yeah, that speaks my language.
Well, it's interesting that male strippers in the early 80s and then it just continued going into the talk shows of the 90s was just such a thing, like a titillating thing for housewives and then
Oh yeah.
for burgeoning gay boys that
Yeah.
could catch the movies or the talk shows or whatever at the time. But the fact that it was just a thing. Now, there's still male stripper shows that are in
Yeah.
Vegas and they tour and all that kind of stuff too. But back then there was just sort of, you look at these guys and you think, oh my God, what brought you to this cigarette smoking, long haired, disco beat
Yeah.
world? Like it's fascinating. And they made a lot of money. There was a lot of drama. There was a documentary, I'm sorry, a documentary and a movie made of the rise and fall of Chippendales and that even
Oh yeah.
included a murder. And it was like, holy
Uh-huh.
crap, what
Yep.
a bunch of drama for guys taking off their clothes.
Yeah.
And some of the guys, I will say, some of the guys are still pretty hot.
Yeah.
Some of them, I'm like, oh, that's a choice. But but people are like, how do you keep finding this stuff? And I just know where to get them. And then there are also some other hilarious pages like Exploitation or
Oh my
male
God.
male stripper party or some other places that will have that. And of course, I always credit if they go first. That's sort of the law of the Instagram
Oh yeah.
jungle. But no, I do search the internet and I do go to YouTube and I do know how to type the right words and some will come up and I'll be like, okay, this is today's Mantic Monday or tomorrow's Mantic Monday or whatever. Well, I'm glad you
Uh,
enjoy it. I'm glad that people enjoy it, and honestly, it makes me. I love how it kind of almost in a weird way accidentally stumbled into it. And
yeah.
actually, I still have people every now and then saying, "Oh, I get it. It's just another manic Monday, but
Oh my God.
mantic Monday." Some people like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize that was the thing." And I was like, "Yep, that's how my crazy brain works."
Yeah. No, it's funny because even as we're talking to it now, I have it stuck in my head, and I'm just like, "You're my number one." Um,
Well,
it,
people have, you know what? I don't know if I've ever spoken to this. People have said, "Why did you pick that song?" And I picked that song because this guy, Murray McDougal, who whose song was not a hit. It didn't chart in the clubs. It didn't chart in the top 100. It didn't chart at all. And I discovered this song many years ago because it was on a label of another artist. Her name was Shauna, and she had a very popular high energy song called I Want You in like 1989 or 1990. And it has kind of the same beat, the same kind of freestyle beats or whatever. And then I saw a picture of him with this Chippendales hair and looking smoldering on the cover and everything. I was like, oh my God. So I researched him and I to date cannot find him. And believe me, I have people looking. We do not know what happened. He actually had two songs. And if you can believe it, the second song is it's so bad that I can't even play it because it's just not even a good song. At least You're My Number One has a hook to it and
yeah.
people remember it. But
Right.
we can't find him. But I'm fascinated that he used the name Murray McDougal. It just doesn't really fit with the Chippendales picture or a song called "You're My Number One," and it was a. I mean,
I
if
wonder
I
if it was a Milli Vanilli thing.
I don't know. But just the fact that they used Murray McDougal, like I mean, I could understand Murray maybe,
But McDougal.
but Murray McDougal just it just brings a chuckle, and that may be his real name and whatever. I did learn that I guess he was a stripper at one point,
Oh,
so it's not so far off from the choice of song that I used in the clips that came with it. So that was almost kind of accidental. But some people have pointed out, it's like, oh my God, you've made this song more popular than it ever was. I said, yeah, it was never popular, but
yeah.
I also like honing in on the underdog or the people that tried and didn't quite make it.
Right.
I think that's more fascinating to me than like Beyonce,
Yeah.
a mainstream person. I like the people that are just kind of like unique, and Murray McDougal is certainly unique.
I feel like I remember that song from way back when, but maybe I don't. Maybe I've just heard it enough on your page that I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like an old friend.
It feels it's definitely in that boom, boom, boom. Let's go back to my room
Yeah.
vibe, and very much of it came out in 1987 to be exact.
Mm,
I know the history, and but again, it didn't do anything. Didn't make any waves. Didn't do anything. Didn't show up on compilations.
mm,
And so I don't know why I picked it. I mean, it just fit. But what's
yeah.
really funny is that the dancers can be dancing to all sorts of beats. And then when I lay the song over it every week, it's like, oh yeah, this kind of works.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they're slightly out of step. It just kind of works.
Well, and it's funny that that came out in '87 because that leads me to another song that you're
Oh.
synonymous with. You know where I'm going,
Oh,
don't
I
you?
know exactly where you're going because it's my
I'm
favorite
I'm
song of all time.
I'm causing a commotion here.
Oh, yes. Causing a
Yes.
commotion. Another thing that, uh, people have learned about being on my page is when I get into a theme or something that I really am honed in on, oh, it's like it's almost like OCD. It's like I'm gonna drill down on Causing a Commotion or Steve Rambo or Mandic Monday or Kids Incorporated or Wild Orchid or
My
like
God.
I just go in for the double down. It's probably at this point quadruple down. Um,
Yeah.
but but like it or not, and I'll still die on that hill, is Causing a Commotion is my favorite song of all time. Um,
Yeah.
and I've certainly publicized it enough. I was even on another podcast, a Madonna podcast, where we spent the entire podcast talking about that one song, which is hilarious.
Oh, was it the MLVC
Yes, oh
people?
my God, these
Okay.
guys were so great and nice, and the fact that they were like, we find this fascinating that you're not letting up and that you're trolling her page, and again, all in a good-hearted way. I don't, but I also still, at the end of the day, do not understand why Madonna just can't put this on a greatest hits album or can't.
Yeah.
She went there in her concert. She actually started doing some sort of like participation with the audience where she sang "I Got the Moves,
Yeah.
Baby," and then and people were like, you won," and I'm like, not really. She didn't sing it,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
was a small victory.
I know. I mean, because it was really good when she did it on Blonde Ambition, and that's like the last time she did it
Yep,
live.
yep,
Live.
yep. And again, it's one of the reasons where I bought tickets for her concert in LA and then she canceled and then I got my money back and then I saw the set list and I was like, yeah, I don't need to go. Not only did she not sing Causing a Commotion, she didn't sing Who's That Girl, which is another favorite of mine. And
Yeah.
I knew she wouldn't sing Spotlight. The thing is, I think a lot of people can kind of pinpoint where their Madonna peak was. And my
Yeah.
Madonna peak was Who's That Girl? Well, it was actually started with Liza Bonita. Liza Bonita, Who's That Girl? Causing a Commotion, Spotlight, and that was the peak. So when
Right.
that wasn't represented in her concert at all, I was like, eh. I'm
It
sure
was so good though. I saw it twice. It was amazing.
you know what? I know a friend who has seen it 5 times, and I'm waiting for it to, I'm sure like a streaming network will like have it. I know she did it in Brazil, and I could watch it right now on YouTube on several
Yeah.
HD, whatever. But I'm kind of waiting to see if a professionally done, cut together like platform
Right.
will put it together because I do want to watch it, and I did watch some of it, and I was obviously very impressed. And of course, the Live to Tell number. I didn't watch it in full because I want to wait, but I know
Yeah.
that one will bring me to tears because that is one of my favorite songs. So all jokes aside, I have
Yeah.
mad respect for Madonna, but if I were to see her in person or had an opportunity to talk to her, I'd be like, "Why do you not like Causing a Commotion?" And she would probably say, "Fuck you,"
Probably, and that would be great.
and I would be like, "Bring it on. That's fine. Slap me. I don't care.
Oh
That's my
my
song
God.
of yours."
See, I wish I would have known you in that whole thing. Because I did meet her once. I mean, it was very brief, but
Oh
like I
wow,
would
good
have
for
I would have
you.
asked that.
You got to meet her? That's fantastic. That's a rarity, and also just like that's a on many a gay man's bucket list, and
Yeah.
you got it checked off. I
It's
mean,
weird. I have really good Madonna luck, but it was every time I tell this story, I feel like I'm lying. It was during the music promo tour in 2000, and it was an MTV contest, and I probably entered like I don't know 3,000 times. I don't remember. I just kept going submit back, submit back,
uh,
submit back, submit back. And then I remember I lived at home. My mother was like, "You're not going to win." I was like, "Well, thanks for the vote of
right.
confidence." And then MTV called and they asked me a bunch of questions. Like, they're like, "Oh, what does Madonna mean to you?" And I was like, "Well, I think I'm putting her children through college. All the money I've spent." But they're like, "Oh, well, we're talking to other people and we'll get back to you." I was like, "Okay." And I worked at a porn shop at the time.
Oh my god, that's awesome. Oh my god, I
Uh,
love it.
and I had a pager because, I was a doctor and a drug dealer, obviously. I don't know why I had a pager. It was ridiculous, but I got a page from MTV, and I was like, "Shit!" And I couldn't call long distance at the time because I mean, cell phones were a
Oh,
thing,
yeah,
sort of.
yeah, I remember those days. Oh my god.
But I called my friend Gloria, and I was like, "Gloria, you need to wake up." And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "You need to three-way MTV for me." And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Just do it." And so she did, and they told me I won, and then they hung
Oh.
up, and she's screaming, and I'm just like, I don't know what's happening right now.
Oh my god, where were you living?
I was in California. I
Oh,
was,
okay, so you were in California. Wait, so
yeah,
you where in California? Oh, that's right, you were up in San Francisco, that area.
yeah, the
Okay,
Bay
okay.
Area.
I was gonna say, oh my god, wait, there's a porn
Yeah.
shop, east of San Francisco?
Yeah, it used to be called Pleasant Hill Adult
Oh
Books,
my god.
and now I think it's called Lingerie Etc. And the best part about working there is there was a Chinese food place in front, and it was called the Peking Boy. And so people would call, and they'd be like, "Where are you located?" I'm like, "We're right behind the Peking Boy."
Oh my god. That's so hilarious. Oh my god. I love that, and I love that. So wait, so was the MTV thing down in Los Angeles and you went down there?
No, it was New York.
Oh my god, so did they fly you out?
Yeah. Yeah, it was wild because they picked 10 contest winners plus a guest, and then they had the people from MTV South America, so there were at least like
Wow.
30 30 people.
So how long was your visit with her?
Oh, it was so quick. And I don't know what quite happened because on the commercial, it was that one where she's in line and she's like, they won't let her in the club, and she's like, "Why are all these women dressed? Why are you wearing my clothes? I'm Madonna. I'm Madonna." And it's like, "Oh, you get to go and behind the velvet rope with Madonna and see her perform and blah blah blah." I was like, "Cool," and that's why everybody just latched on and entered. Um, we got there, and of course the airline lost my luggage,
Oh, of course.
and I had an outfit picked out to meet Madonna in, and I was like, "Great." Um, and so we had to deal with that, and so we were late getting to the hotel, and then they're like, "Oh, you need to go up to the penthouse. They're gonna have everybody meet." It's like, cool.
Wow.
And then I got up there and I was talking to the girl from MTV and telling her about my luggage and all that and just the trip and whatnot. And this chick runs up to me and she had a camera in her hand and she's like, "Can you do that again? I didn't get that." And I was like, "You want me to do another take of real life?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Huh." And that's when I knew it was all fake.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I've lived in LA and have been working in the entertainment business since the mid-90s. So
Yeah.
the level of what you see on the screen or what you hear on the radio or what you listen to in music, and then you see the flip side of it, you're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And the amount of celebrities that I have encountered. They've been mostly good, I have to say, but there have been some that I've just been like, oh, okay, don't meet your heroes. It's just,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or or if you're having a set, or how's this when it comes to celebrities, especially in Los Angeles, because they're kind of all over the place on some levels. I just don't go looking for them. Like I'm going to my Trader Joe's and getting my food and coming back. Like they
Right.
could be right next to me in an aisle and I would not know. But even if they were, and they have been sometimes I'll be like, okay, is this a celebrity that means anything to me? Because if it's, say, Brad Pitt,
Yeah.
he doesn't mean anything to me. He is Brad Pitt. He's a huge
Right.
star, but none of his movies or whatever and register with me. But at the same token, if uh, Linda Blair, is in front of me, I'm gonna be as, gush filled, and but I'm also going to talk to her about something other than The Exorcist because I like her other
Right.
movies. So like,
Right.
so to me, they always say, celebrities are people too. So if I don't have anything unique to say to a celebrity, I won't say anything to them because
Yeah.
but I know other people that, and I've seen them in action who have done it differently. They're like, oh, they'll just take a picture with Andy Cohen just to take a picture with Andy Cohen. I'm like, okay, well, that there's nothing. Okay, well, that's fine, and some
Yeah.
people do that, but like, I wouldn't do that unless I had something interesting to say to
Right.
Andy Cohen. You know what I
Well,
mean?
also Andy Cohen's a douche. Him and Anderson Cooper can go to hell for the
So,
way they treated Kathy Griffin.
so I'm gonna say this just for the record on that. I know that those guys are polarizing to some, and I know I posted recently a picture with myself with Andy Cohen,
Yeah.
because he was really good to me and he knew me from the page and whatever. I will say
Yeah.
this. Um, Andy and at one point in the past, Anderson, they've always been nice to me. They've been good to me. I
Right.
am a person that goes off of how somebody is with me.
Yeah.
And uh, I will say this diplomatically. I worked at a company where I worked on Kathy Griffin's stand up specials. We put them out on DVD,
Mhm.
and the experience was disappointing.
Oh,
I'm being very diplomatic. So I just want to say that there may be two sides to the story. I always want people to
right.
remember, but I know that your reaction and your description, you are not alone in that, and I understand that. But
Yeah.
they have been very good to me, and Andy's been good to
Yeah.
me. So, but I'm also not his friend. Like I mean, like I don't just
Yeah.
because we took a picture and there's been some Instagram interaction over the years or
Right.
whatever. He's not my friend. That's the
Yeah.
other thing too to keep in mind is sometimes you can get. I've worked with celebrities and you can get really close, but when the project is over, something like that, maybe sometimes there might be a, a connection or friendship or a few lunches or stuff afterwards, but
Yeah.
usually it doesn't sustain.
Yeah. I worked for Marvel for a couple of years,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's one of the first things they told me. They're like, they're not your friends. And and it's funny because it's like, yeah, most of the time, yes, but there are a couple people, there some of the writers, a director, and then one of the actors. Like I still hear from them all the time,
Oh, that's
and
cool. That's
we
great.
talk a lot. So I'm just like, and after a while, when they kept texting me, I'm like, are they my friend now?
Well, I mean, there's one friend of mine, I think she's a celebrity, and I think other people would be too. She's the comedian Devin Green.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. She's a friend. I consider her a friend. She has my back. She has she has put she's just great. But she is an exception to the rule. And the ones that are contacting you, it's kind of more the exception to the rule. Now,
Yeah.
again, I mean, if I spent more sustained time with some of those celebrities, some of them thinking about, oh yeah, I could
Right.
see that we'd probably be friends. But you got to
Yeah.
think about it too, depending on the celebrity you are. How challenging must it be to kind of decipher
Oh yeah.
who
Like, who's your friend?
who's your friend and who wants
Hmm.
you to glom
Yeah.
on to you and who wants something from you or who
Yeah.
wants to who wants to name drop you and
Yeah.
and also too as we learned from Ellen DeGeneres, sometimes the persona that you see on screen is definitely not what
Oh yeah.
is in the background and in the real life, and then you're like, oh. I will tell, I could tell people this because it doesn't matter. The most disappointing celebrity experience I had was Joan Collins,
Oh,
because she was just more cold and frostier, and she didn't have what I think a lot of gay men in particular would like to have or have projected on her, a little bit of a maternal thing, because we saw her being
Right.
maternal with Stephen Carrington as a character and whatever. And I told her a very, when I had my chance, and it wasn't just a blink, I had a good opportunity to talk with her one on one, and I told her how much Dynasty meant to me, and but not in a excitedly goofy way, in a calm, controlled way. And she was just like, "Oh well, thanks. I was just doing my job," and I was just like, "Well, Leah, I just told you this. Okay." It wasn't just that. There were some other examples, and I was just like, but since she was kind of cold and frosty, I was like, "Well, that is kind of Alexis, isn't it?" So
Right.
so
Right.
so I was able to compartmentalize that one and move
Yeah.
on. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I think probably why I still talk to some of those folks is because a lot of them I don't know comics, so that's not my world.
Hmm.
And I didn't know a lot of the people. I had to IMDb a lot of people because they're like, oh, well, you have to go to so and so's house and do this for them. And I was like, who's that? I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know.
And it wouldn't be until like I finally traced them back to something, and I was like, oh, okay, I know who they are.
Yep.
Um, but I'd go in there and I would just treat them like normal people, and I wouldn't get excited or gush. Even sometimes I'd be doing it in my head, but I wouldn't let on that I was.
Yeah, most of the times, 9 times out of 10, especially with where I worked, I had to be professional with
Yeah.
them. So I read the room, read them, kind of sensed what I could, like, if I was gonna say something, what would be the right time? Did I get my work done? Like whatever. And or sometimes I went for it, but again, went for it in a sensitive way. Uh, and that 9 times out of 10 worked to my advantage. The other thing too, I don't know if you ever did this, but I did this, is that whenever I worked with women celebrities, I would dial up my gay just a little bit more,
Oh yeah.
so that they would immediately relax and be like, okay, this isn't anybody who
Yeah.
jerked off to me as I was a teenager
Right.
or whatever. There was a comfortable, like, the women celebrities were like, okay, he's,
Yeah.
good. I don't have to second guess this guy's motives. I don't have to everything.
Yeah.
And actually, on some levels, there were some guys, celebrities that I met that were like completely comfortable on the other run too. So it just
Yeah.
depends. It really depends on the approach.
Yeah. I think a lot of them knew. I mean, I am not very I don't know. Normally, I have my nails painted and I'm just me and whatever. So I think a lot of people already put that together, but
Hmm.
some of them I dial it up a little bit.
Yep.
Like when I met Aubrey Plaza, like she was,
Oh my gosh, you got to meet Aubrey Plaza. Okay, so that's one that I would go, because I think she's
yeah.
fantastic. But sorry,
Well, she was
continue.
on, no, you're fine. She was on Agatha, which actually is coming out September 18th on Disney Plus. Plug, plug.
Well, to me, she's just always been such a, and she still is, just a very unique actress. I remember
Oh,
her.
yeah.
I remember her in an episode of Portlandia very clearly in the lesbian bookstore, and that's when I first saw her and first loved her.
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved her attitude and whatever. So when she was on White Lotus, I was like, oh my god, this is perfect that she is on this show. But anyway, sorry, but what were we saying?
Oh,
Uh,
no, but when I met her, because the show it's very witchy,
mhm.
and I'm house sitting and I'm letting these dogs out.
That's
They're going
okay.
crazy.
That's okay. Some text came in right at that time. That's why I got totally distracted. I was like, "Yep, oops." But go on.
But no, so she was wearing like some kind of flowy, witchy, almost like spider webby sort of gothy thing. And I saw her and I was like, oh, I'm like, you're dressed like I normally dress, or like I used to in high school. And so that just kind of, set the mood. But it was the most, not the most, but it was an awkward conversation, and I loved it because that's the way I want it with her.
No, right, exactly. That's kind of how I can only imagine the conversations that people do have with her. But again, she would also be like one of those people that if I met, I would actually mention that episode of Portlandia. I wouldn't mention anything else that she did. I would just be like, just so you know, I knew of you just from Portlandia, that one episode that you did. That's how much of an impression you made. That's the only thing that I would say to her. And then if it turned into other things, that would be great. But again, she
Yeah,
wouldn't be a person that, like, say, if she was in the grocery store, I would like hunt her down. It would
right.
have to be in a situation that made sense.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's interesting. I've had three opportunities to talk to Molly Shannon, for instance. She's
yeah,
fantastic. She's fucking Molly Shannon. But it's always been in places where she's surrounded by too many people, or I couldn't jump into the conversation, whatever. And I laugh at this point because it's almost like a curse. Like, when am I ever going to get a chance to talk to Molly Shannon? But I also don't feel like I need to kind of be aggressive.
right.
If it happens and I can see my opportunity, that's fine. That makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
uh, you know, wow, I didn't realize you had all these celebrity stuff. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. But Madonna, that's kind of the one that
Oh,
one
yeah.
that's the one to beat. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, I'll wrap up with Aubrey and get back to Madonna. But with Aubrey, the awkward part was that, I was just talking. I was like, okay, well, here's, I brought her. We had like a chef that prepared stuff, and I brought her, food and other things she asked for. And I was like, well, here's your stuff, blah blah blah, and I put it in the fridge and yada yada. And she was just like looking at it and seeing what I had brought, and just small talk. And then I was leaving and I was like, well, if you need anything, just let us know. I'm like, I'm Nick, by the way. And then she turns to me with that stare,
Yep.
that dead eye stare, and
Oh.
goes, oh, you're Nick. And I was like, that's me. She's like, oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, I know who you are. I was like, oh, okay. And it was just so like, oh my God, what did I do? I'm in trouble.
That's hilarious. Oh my god. But
Yeah.
that's a really cool celebrity encounter. Okay, so what's
And
next?
she,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, she did. And she signed my Funko Pop of Janet Snakehole
Oh,
from
she did?
Yeah,
Wow,
and
that's
I
really
told
cool.
her, I said, it's dealer's choice. She can either sign it as Janet or Aubrey, and she signed it as Aubrey. And I was like, damn. I was
Oh,
kind of hoping for Janet Snakehole.
but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so let's see. All right, we've covered Mandic Monday, we've covered causing a
Yes.
commotion, we went
Yes.
into celebrities, we went into even
Oh.
Andy Cohen.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Let me finish my quick Madonna meet.
oh, okay.
So yeah, we're just bouncing all over the place. I love it.
Which is totally fun because, as you know, I have, or if you haven't already guessed, my page is very ADD, so I'm gonna be a little ADD. That's just how it is. Go on,
Yeah.
continue.
Well, I'm in the penthouse of this New York hotel, and then we met with them. They gave us our itinerary, and they're like, "This is blah blah blah, cool, cool, cool." And then they're like, "You're probably not going to be able to meet her," and we're just like, "What the fuck?"
Oh,
And we're like, the commercial said,
right, exactly. Did you say that?
yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
us were like, "Excuse me," and they're like, "Oh, well, blah blah." I don't remember what excuse they
Oh
gave,
my
but
god.
I feel like it was a setup
Yeah.
because the day of the show, the next day, we got back to the hotel, we got in the limo, they took us to this bar across the street from Roseland Ballroom, which was where the show was. And then we're schmoozing with people and stealing all sorts of Madonna paraphernalia that they had, anything that wasn't nailed down. And then they're like, okay, we're gonna go next door, we're gonna go to the show. Cool. They line us up outside against the wall, and then the camera flicks on, and they're like, so would you rather meet her or be in the first row? And we're like, is this a fucking question?
What?
And so everybody unanimously was like, meet her.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So they took us backstage. They split us into groups. We were the second group to go. I was freaking out. My ex-girlfriend was there, or my beard rather. And I was kind of freaking out. She's like, calm down. And I flipped around and I was like, I was like, fuck you. I'm meeting Madonna. No. And then as that's happening, then Rosie O'Donnell walks up and she's like, hey, how you doing? Have you met her yet? And I was like, Rosie, you're not helping.
Oh my God.
I
How
literally said
exciting.
that to her.
Oh my God. Did she laugh?
Yeah, she did.
Okay,
And
that's
then
cool.
then they took us into the room. They lined us up. I had to be in the back because I'm tall, and she came in and I like couldn't breathe. And she was like more beautiful than I ever imagined. And she was tiny and wearing a Britney Spears shirt.
Oh wow, how
This
funny.
is before the kiss.
Yes.
But they lined us up. We're taking the picture. I stuck my arm over this lesbian and put my hand on Madonna's shoulder.
Oh my God.
And then she thanked us for coming and she said she hoped we enjoyed the show. And I reached my right hand over a sea of people and she grabbed my hand and shook it. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
And then I wandered out into the crowd and I don't remember the show because I was like, I just met Madonna. So
Wow.
so
Wow.
that was pretty wild.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you kind of illustrated, like, I feel like I was there with you with the kind of the excitement of the whatever. I mean, there, that's pretty cool. But I would
Well,
have
it's
been,
just weird.
go ahead.
Oh, you would no, I was saying that it's weird because nobody wins an MTV contest. Nobody gets to meet Madonna. So it's just like, how the fuck?
Right, exactly. Well, you did it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that would, my God, chop off their left arm in order to go to meet her, even if it was just for a brief
Yeah.
second. Um,
I'm just glad it was a good experience because, like, I
yeah.
had been warned that it could go, and you never know. You catch somebody on the wrong day,
Yeah, that's the other thing too. When you're meeting somebody that's then that influential in your life or has made an impact, and the the inside jitters like you got are bigger because it's like this person means a lot to you. This person's formed you. This person is, whatever. So if they tend at being good, it's great. But yes, there have been a few occasions, very few occasions. Like I said, the Joan
yeah.
Collins one was just kind of like, really? Okay. I wanted you to be nicer and more genuine and more whatever, but maybe that was also my expectations, or again, maybe it was just kind of, what it is. You just never know. But I'm glad that it
Right.
worked out for you. Okay, so what? We have Manic Monday, Madonna, Andy Cohen,
All
uh,
the people,
male stripper.
everybody's represented.
What's next? What else do you want to know in the Jeffrey mixed world?
What did you want to be when you grew up? Or are you still figuring that out?
Well, I can tell you that I knew from a very early age, 5, that I wanted to move to California, and then
Mhm.
I knew that I wanted to be involved in the film, TV, entertainment industry somehow. And when I moved out here in 1991, I ended up getting into that industry, and I worked as a writer at Soap Opera Digest for a few years.
Oh,
Oh, I know,
wow.
crazy, when I was like watching Days of Our Lives
Oh,
and
my
a
God.
bunch of crazy shows. That was a hilarious job for 3 years. And then I worked for New Line Cinema and some other companies as marketing assistants and then managers and directors. The last job I had, which I was there for 14 years, I had co-created a brand called Scream Factory that was devoted to horror and
Oh, yeah.
sci-fi. Oh yeah, so me and another guy there, we co-created it within the company, and it took off big time. We'd released over 700 films, and I was literally marketing and meeting talent for some of my favorite horror films of all time, like Halloween and Carrie and The Fog, and sitting in
Hmm.
John Carpenter's office and interviewing him and just going, how is this happening? This is a dream come true. Um,
Yeah.
and so I've been very fortunate to have what I would call some dream jobs already. I'm not
Hmm.
sure what I'm doing next, but as anybody who's listening who follows my page, and I started dabbling in singing.
Yeah.
To
You got what, two singles,
I
right?
got 2 singles out, and I
Do they
literally
even call that singles anymore?
I don't know if they do. We call them EPs because it's like one song and there's like 1,000 remixes to them or whatever. But
Hmm.
yeah, no. Last year, the long story really super short is that I was like, what else do I want to do in my life that I haven't done? That would be kind of crazy, and I'm still relatively young enough at 52, which isn't really that young, but I think 50s is the new 30s. But um, and I was
God,
like,
I hope so.
I know that's kind of. I feel like the 50s, like you and I grew up when we looked at 50 and we're like, ah, that's ancient. I don't think people look at 50 the same way that they did when like you and I were growing up in the 80s. I just think
Right,
it's a different
right.
vibe. So I reached out to the creator of Expose, who I had loved all of his music
Yes.
and all of his stuff, and he said yes. And I gotta tell you, if he had said no, none of this would have happened. And him and I, this is a great example tying into what we were talking to earlier. This guy, Louis Martinet, he has been a hero to me. He was a hero to me from when I was a teenager because music and horror films and even the show Dynasty got me through the worst times of my life. So the fact
Yeah.
that Louis said, sure, why not?
Yeah.
And worked with me. I'd never sung before. I had never, didn't take any training or whatever. But yeah, here we are, a second song, and working on a third. And
You too. You're gonna have a whole album pretty soon.
well, one step at a time. I have to
I
also think
know.
of the idea of performing and all that kind of stuff too. But here's one thing that I'll share with you and anyone who's listening is I don't have any delusions of grandeur. I have a firm grasp of what I'm doing, how crazy it is to be doing it, and kind of who I am, what I look like, what my whole sort of vibe is, and everything. I am not going for the Grammys. I am not trying to be a superstar. Uh,
Yeah.
but so I'm having fun, but I am also enjoying challenging myself. And the second song was definitely better than the first one. And I got great remixers. And I mean, yes, the money is coming out of my pocket. It doesn't come free. But
Right.
I will say that, God forbid, knock on wood, if anything ever happened to me, well, those 2 songs are permanent. And
Yeah.
that's means a lot to me. I didn't think that I'd forgotten that creating something from scratch is really kind of magical, you know?
Yeah.
And whether it's creating a script or a comic or whatever, that's magic. And I just hope others are entertained by it.
Yeah.
And some people may cringe at it. That's okay. I'm okay with that. My page is. Here's the thing. When I did this last year, I realized that I had set up my whole universe as sort of a what the fuck. So it sort of made sense to do it. So if I crashed and burned, it made sense because
Right.
it's a what the fuck. And if I did well, it would be like, okay, well, we didn't see this one coming. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, I think it's those things like just fear keeps you in a certain place. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, why not? I never imagined that I'd be doing a freaking podcast, but here we are.
Ex-
Um,
exactly.
I was on a friend's podcast and I was like, this would be kind of fun. And it has been fun. And I really decided that if it becomes like a job and tedious, then I'm just not going to do it anymore.
Same here. Same here. That's
Um,
that's that's kind of the way that I'm at is with the singing stuff. Here's the other thing too. I also would not have done this had I stayed at my last job.
yeah,
That's something that I haven't really told anybody publicly, but I was at my last job for 14 years, and
you heard it here
yeah,
first.
exactly. You get an exclusive.
I
Actually,
got the scoop.
I got to tell you, out of this is a really good vibe between you and me. I want to thank you already just
Oh
because
yeah.
there's certain things that I'm able to talk about here that I realize I haven't talked on other podcasts. So thank you. But
Oh,
I
I'm
would
honored.
no, hey, it's all about sometimes interviewing and vibes and everything at the end of the day and how a person feels comfortable.
I'm
But
having my Oprah moment. I'm in my Oprah era,
no, no,
really.
you'll take my hand and come in really close like Drew Barrymore. Um, but I the job that I was at for 14 years, and of course, a lot of people I knew there and family, and but there was also I have to say this diplomatically issues, and we left on amicable terms, but still I left. I would definitely never have done any of the music stuff had I stayed because there's absolutely no way I would have been able to deal with the behind my back giggles and snorts and all this stuff
Right, right.
that I was already dealing with on some levels at that company. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So again, I'll believe me, I got the feedback of from the people in the company of what the fuck, they didn't see that coming at all. But I still
yeah,
have friends there, and a lot of people still was like, Jeff, that's really cool that
yeah.
you did something. My family was a little head scratching, like, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah. Oh, especially, and by the way, especially the Murray McDougal cover, which again, I did on purpose. Like I knew
Yeah.
it showed up on a Facebook page called Bad Album Covers. And I was so happy because that's exactly what I was trying to go for. But most of the people on it, because it got shared a lot, thought it was from the 80s. And I was like, good.
Yeah.
That's literally exactly what I tried to do here. I didn't,
Hmm.
and so again, I'm having fun. Having fun.
Yeah. It's funny to me how many people, because like I will see one of your posts and I'll send it to one of my friends, and then I'll look and I'm like, oh, they're already following him. Okay.
I will have some friends of mine who will say the same thing, and these are people who've known me, before I was doing any Instagram stuff. Uh, there are times, or there's been some unusual times where I've actually been recognized in public, which
Yeah.
I don't understand because, as you know, my page is not about me doing selfies. I mean, yes,
Right, right.
I've been promoting the songs a little bit more, and that has my picture on it. But it's not me out on the wild, eating pancake breakfasts or taking pictures of me on the by the Hollywood sign or whatever like that. So I'm always surprised. I'm like, and I go, how did you know how did you recognize me? And they're like, oh, I follow your page, I see your profile. I'm like, yeah, but still it's a small little
I know.
circle. And so
I know.
I'm very whenever that happens, I'm thrown. I'm also flattered, but I will just say this: I don't think people like you and the followers and people whatever understand just how important and thankful I am that you guys are all a community on the page. You have gotten me through some really bad times since I've started that Instagram page in 2017.
Yeah.
COVID is one,
Hmm.
but there were some other super painful stuff that I never went public, medical episodes that I never talked about, things that uh, that I didn't feel like sharing because I always want to keep that page pretty escapist and light,
Yeah.
and sometimes seeing the kind of interactions and the good people, generally good people that are on the page,
Yeah.
have gotten me through a lot. So to anybody who's listening, know that that means a big deal to me, more than you possibly can know.
Yeah, it's weird because Instagram has been very. I've connected with so many frigging people. And I've actually, it is weird when I see people that I've followed like out in the wild. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's just one guy who lives in Atlanta, and I was at my favorite bar, and I turned around and I was like, oh, and I was like, well, I want to say hi. And I was like, but how do I like,
Right.
and I just went up and I was like, hey, I follow you on Instagram. And I was like, I'm a dork.
Was he
But,
cool? Was he nice
Yeah, no,
about
he's
it?
totally cool. He's like, oh yeah, yeah, because I mean, we've chatted a little bit here and there, but
Well, it's funny because
I don't know.
when I meet people, I'm like, "What's your handle?"
Yeah,
and they'll
yeah,
say, and I'll go, "Oh my god!" Like that's that's kind of how that is. It doesn't happen that often, and actually, there's a lot of people who I'd love to meet in person, but there are people I'm talking to from the UK or
yeah, yeah.
Canada or whatever. It's not as easy as that. But I kind of feel like somehow I don't know. I'll never understand this. I did not think that my unusual humor and outlook that combined Dynasty Catfights and Kids Incorporated and Brady Bunch and Steve Rambo and like I don't know how that brought in
Yeah,
not only a whole bunch of people, but then brought in legit celebrities that were following my
right,
page, like
right.
fucking Amy Sedaris. I just have to say that again,
Oh, I love
or
her so
Amy
much.
Sedaris. Amy Sedaris has like reposted me so many times, and I don't say that for anybody to think like, oh my god, Jeff thinks he's like a name dropping or whatever. I'm only saying it because anytime that it happens, I'm always stunned and I'm always kind of like, how, what a, what a compliment I feel that Amy Sedaris, one of the funniest people ever, is
Hmm.
actually she pays it, and she's talked to me on some DMs. And again, she's not my friend, and I wouldn't pretend to say that whatever. But we've had more conversations than normal, and she's been very good to me, very very
Yeah,
nice to me. She's actually a person that I would love to meet in person one of these days and say,
yeah,
hey, but I just don't. I'll never understand how my vibe got the people that I got. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm just grateful.
I'm trying to get a vibe with the podcast. Like like you say, the what the fuck. Like there are moments when I'm just like, or maybe why the fuck not? There's so many people that like I attempt to talk to, and I don't give up because I'm like, maybe someday they'll give in and want to be on the podcast.
Well, you know
Like,
what? Go ahead.
oh, I keep messaging Martha Plimpton. I'm like, please,
Well, you
I
know
love
what?
you. You're my favorite Goonie.
This would be my advice, especially in the marketing world, and also you've worked as celebrities too.
Yeah,
Keep on doing what you're doing right now. You're building, and you're building your followers, you're building your streams, you're building your
yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
and keep Martha at the like, okay, she's at the top of the pyramid for you, and just
yeah.
kind of try to continue to build up. And I know it can be a little like, believe me, there's been something, okay, I'm going to make a true confession here. I've tried to get verified on Instagram for
Yeah.
a very long time. And every time they come back and like, sorry, you don't meet the criteria. I'm like, what the fuck? I literally have this engagement, million, like this millions in the engagement. I got
Yeah.
a follower base that's significant. I have actual music channels and at this point, and then I also had articles from Scream Factory and whatever. And they don't give you the criteria. They're just they and sure, I could pay the 14.99 to get the blue check mark, but I don't want to do that because for
Is that a
me,
month?
yeah, that's a month. It's 14.99 a
Jesus
month.
Christ.
I did it 1 month last year just to see kind of if it would do anything.
Yeah.
Or just because your channels, you should experiment. And I really didn't see anything happening, or I didn't notice it. I mean, it was cool to
Yeah.
have it, but it's kind of like, okay, I got to watch what I say because if somebody's doing this, they might think wrong. For me, it felt like I wasn't being like, it would be going to an exclusive disco club. What is it? Club 45, Club 54? I should know this. Club 54.
Studio 54.
Studio 54. There you go. It'd be like paying to get into Studio 54 and not being really plucked from the
Oh yeah.
line. And
Yeah.
I guess for me, in my mind, I didn't have I couldn't justify the $15 a month and paying it just to have the blue check mark. I mean, I
Yeah.
also think that content and your vibe and whatever like that, it'll speak for itself. The right
Yeah.
people will come in.
Yeah.
Always be authentic.
Yeah.
I didn't try to copy anybody. Um, because I don't I didn't see I saw several pages that were in their lanes, like a stripper page here and then a something page
Yeah.
here and a something page here. I didn't quite see the page that I developed, but I also didn't think that anybody would really come to the table like they have. And
Yeah.
but for
Yeah, it is wild the people that you attract. Like I never thought that I would get like I was happy with one listen and then now I think I'm at like 800 and
oh
I'm
my
like,
God, that's
well,
fantastic!
yeah, my goal is
Congratulations.
by thank you. My goal is by August to have 1,000. So
But that's really good. And see, again, I think you're also being smart. You know, you're reaching out to people and saying, "Hey, you know, you're just like you did with me. You asked me because, and your timing, by the way, is right now because I actually had an interview last week, and there's another interview coming up, but they're in different veins. They're music or whatever. But I'm like, oh, this comes in cool.
yeah,
And there's been some other interviews that I've had in the past, which are kind of like the Madonna one and some others
yeah.
that have been really. Again, I always think to myself after I'm done with them, I'm like, oh my God, Jeff, what did you just do? You're what did you talk about? And is that going to be the?
Yeah.
But I also then smile and I move on because I'm kind of an open book. Um,
The only thing I ever worry about is, and I actually tell my brother and my sister, I tell them which episodes they're allowed to listen to.
oh wow, oh my God, that's hilarious.
Well, 'cause I had these guys on, I think they were either the Horror Daddies or the Scared Gay. I think it might have been Scared Gay.
I love
And
that.
we got to talking and it was like so like it was like hookups and I even like talked about like, getting fucked and I was just like, "Oh my god, what have I done?" That's why like everybody like they're like, "Can I swear?" And I'm like, "Honey, I've talked about getting fucked up the ass. Of course you can swear." But yeah, so like I'll tell my brother and sister, I'm like, "You cannot listen to this particular episode. I'm sorry."
Which only makes them probably listen to it. You do know that, right?
I don't know. Like, I don't think they've actually like my sister follows the Tramadonna Instagram to support, but I don't think she's actually listened to it. I maybe, and I haven't asked them either
That's too
because I'm kind of afraid to.
that's too funny. Well, again, it's kind of one of those things that over the years, I know that my mother and my father, I actually just don't even think they have the know-how, the technology, because there is sort of a generation difference too of like
Right,
learning where to find my song on digital platforms. What's a digital
right,
platform? You know,
right.
they I had to say like, so you go to YouTube or you have to kind of walk them through. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's an interview that's dropping tomorrow where I told basically the freestyle community that I worked at a bathhouse for 2 weeks. I've never said that
Yes.
publicly before, and I'm sure that there'll be like, "What's a bathhouse?" Some people will be like, and
Oh my God.
I didn't go into specifics or
Right,
examples,
right.
but I still said it, and I guess I I'm sure you probably share this philosophy, maybe, but the older I get, the less fucks you kind of give, and you're like,
Oh yeah,
this is what my path has been. Doesn't mean
yeah,
it's my path now, but I can at least speak about my path and say,
yeah.
yeah, I was a big whore in the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s. Like
And oh, sorry,
nah,
that's just me.
you know what? I'll tell you one thing. Once you hit 50 and 51 and 52, things do start to calm down. Nicely put. But
Oh,
I don't regret any of the stories or that I could tell or
yeah,
the
yeah.
rambunctiousness. I mean, it's kind of it was what it was. I mean, you only live once, as they say.
Yeah,
But
I'm just convinced that I sleep with these people, so I have something to talk about.
well, it's funny because if I were being interviewed on sort of that topic alone, oh my God, the stories and
Yeah,
the like, what situation were you in? I'm like, yep,
yeah.
yeah, that situation. What do you mean in the Hall of Records? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah. They're those are the kind of things I'm like, yeah, mom, or even close friends. I'm like, don't listen to
Right.
this one. But I do watch
Yeah.
my. I will say this. This is really funny. I had rumors in the music world. I was told recently that they were like I came crashing into this freestyle 80s stuff, and there's a community of people who listen to that music quite a bit. I didn't know that so much, and they were all like, who is this Jeffreymixed guy? Is he a porn guy? Does he do porn? Is he loaded? And when one of the DJs told me that, I laughed. And I so on the interview that comes out, I get to clear that air and say, no, I do not do porn, never have, never will, and no, I'm not loaded. But it's funny what people's you know im- impressions are until you actually get to know them. So it's another reason why I like doing any interviews or podcasts, is it kind of, no pun intended, sets the record straight a little bit. But
Right. Right.
yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. What more do you have anything more to ask or talk, or I'm good. I'm open. I just trying to think
Oh,
of.
no. I was just gonna give my little quick bathhouse story. I've only been to one once, and it was kind of embarrassing because, like, I'm walking around in a towel, and I don't know, like, I've never been to one, and I'm just like, I'm not really shy, but sometimes when it's a new experience,
Of course.
and so eventually, like, I just like my friend was like in one of the rooms, and he was like trying to almost like acting like he was sleeping, and he was naked on the bed and everything, and then I found him, and I was like, hey girl, I'm like, I'm gonna go home now. Can you get a ride home? You okay? And I just left, and I was like, it was just weird. It was just me wandering around in a towel going, I don't know.
I can say, as so I can share this a little bit. I definitely have more stories. So as I told you, I worked at a bathhouse for a couple weeks at one point in my life when I was 29, and in between jobs. And no, I never put that on my resume. But the bathhouse culture, and I don't. There's not too many of them that are still out there, but there are. It is definitely an attitude. That's probably the best way of putting it. You go
Right.
in and you're you're basically fast food shopping. People are on apps now and saying sup, meet,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
this, whatever. You're taking quite the long time. Whereas when you go to a bathhouse or a sex club, you're literally coming in for a landing. Like it's like there's no like, okay, you're sizing each other up and down, whatever that
Yeah.
means. It could be a vibe,
Yeah.
a look, and then it's like, you're interested, okay, there's chemistry, boom, we're going in and we're fooling around, and sometimes a connection could be made there. I met somebody who ended up being a boyfriend for 3 years. Like, you just never
Oh
know.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, because, well, in a weird way, what's a better way to get to know somebody is when you, if you're physically entwined and things are all working
Yeah.
and there's a chemistry working out. You don't have to second guess that when you're on two or three or four or five, six, dinner dates leading up to. Now, does that the best recipe for meeting somebody? I don't know, but people meet in all sorts of different ways. But when
I yeah. I don't know how to meet anybody. It's like I've
listen,
tried like
I'm not on
the
it.
apps.
I'm not on
Ugh.
any apps. I'm not on any apps. I actually, at this point right now, since I'm in between jobs, this is not the time for me to meet anybody at all.
No.
But I don't like the apps. This doesn't work for me. And I'm not going to any clubs of this nature at this point. And even when
Yeah.
I was, there wasn't. It's not a prom date when you're going into one of those things. You're
Oh
really
yeah.
going in there for recreation. And
Right.
if something unexpected comes out of that experience, then that's fantastic. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like I said, You ever want to do an interview with me? Let's talk about bathhouses. Well, then we can talk later. That's a whole other way.
I know.
That's a
No,
whole.
I just had the one experience, but like I mean the apps also like I'm on the dating apps and like you talk about paying for the blue check mark. I feel like it's the same difference paying for the like dating sites. Like I've
Yeah.
tried like for a month, like let me try it. I'm like it's no different. I can just see who's viewed my profile or liked me, and mostly it's people that I'm just like no.
Well,
Um
right. There's also, I will say this, a big reason why I'm not on any of the apps is because I actually would like to. I'm open to dating. I'm open to definitely really like settle down and to be with somebody.
yeah,
I've been in that position for some time. But
yeah.
what I don't like about the apps is that people can take bad pictures, people to take good pictures.
Oh
There's a
yeah.
lot of swiping left and
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And what happens is you're really not getting a good idea of what chemistry is in person. Um, uh, and also, again, you could be swiping left to some guy who is literally your soulmate. And but because he took a bad picture or is a goofy expression or whatever, then
Right.
you swiped left when in person he might have checked off all the boxes. So it's kind of it's I last year is when I just said no, I'm not on any apps anymore. I was also wasting too much time on it, and I'd
Yeah.
rather spend my time on Instagram making, ridiculous posts.
Yeah, I know. I always try. I always say I'm gonna quit having sex and I'm gonna get off all the apps and then I delete them all, but then I download them again.
Yeah, well, I've been able when I deleted them last year, I have not had any inclination. I think I had tried so many times to go back and up and down and whatever, and finally I was just like, "Nope, we're not doing this at this point." If I'm destined to meet somebody that, we get to share lives together and date and whatever like that, I like to still think that it would be serendipitous and uh, organic in or when the time is right. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. I mean,
I just
I'm
wish
kind of
like friends would hook me up or something. Like, what happened to blind dates? Or like, I have a
uh
perfect friend for you. I'm like, you know,
blind dates can be, well, blind dates. I mean, yeah, yeah, you're right. I don't know. It's usually like, when I went to a concert yesterday with a friend of mine, and of course it was like in East LA and not really the West Hollywood, and there were some gays
what show
there.
did you go to?
There was a freestyle concert and Sapphire was there, and
Oh my.
oh, I was very excited. I love Sapphire, and I was just blown away. But I was looking at the crowd, and I saw some of the us gays, and I was like, nope, not for me. And then of course the one guy that I was really attracted to, straight dude, was some woman, and I was like, yeah, that's how it is. That's just how I'm wired. Um,
Oh yeah, no, I get it. I like men that you don't know that they're gay until you're fucking them.
right, there you go.
Like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I kept
Mm.
my friend just laugh because I was looking at this guy, and he wasn't, oh God, he wasn't like a 10 or, on the general scale, he wouldn't have been a 10 or even a 9 or an 8 or whatever like that. But there was something
Yeah.
about him, and he just had that look, and I was like, oh, why can't you hold me like you're holding her?
Yeah, I know. I get all annoyed when I see hot guys and I'm like, yeah, and then there's the girl right there and I'm like, damn it.
I know, but that's how it happens. That's
I
but
mean, but I also get annoyed when I see a hot guy and then I look down and he's wearing Crocs and I'm like, I can't. I cannot.
well, to me, my big thing is, and this will be surprising people, there are a lot of attractive men out there, and on social media, what will turn me off the most is if I see a guy that I'm really attracted to, and I go to their social media page, and all their pictures are just them. I can't.
Oh
I
yeah.
for me, if you're a model or a celebrity or even a bodybuilder or something like that, professional, well, that makes sense. That's your brand, that's your business,
Yeah.
that's your
Yeah.
stuff. I get it. It's kind of like when I go on hairdresser pages and I see examples of their styles or makeup
Right.
artists or whatever. But when I just see some guys that are just like what I call rubber stamped gays, like I would be
Yeah,
able to pick you out of the crowd, and you're just all you're doing is posting photos of yourself. Um, on one level, I will always say you do you, and that's what
yeah,
makes you feel good and whatever. But another part of me is like, okay, so you're that narcissistic. Okay, got it.
yeah.
All right, and that to me is not an attractive quality to me. It may be an
No,
attractive quality to other people. I certainly like a confident man,
yeah,
but that usually is a red flag for me. So,
yeah. I've even seen guys who have their own picture as their wallpaper on their phone, and I'm like, dude,
oh my
come
god.
on.
Okay, that is next level nuts. I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've seen
Wow.
that before, and I'm like, is that you on your phone? They're like, yeah. I'm like,
Wow.
and we're done here.
Wow. Wow.
I know, I
I've
know.
never heard of that one. I mean, whew, whew.
Takes all kinds. I
Like
know, I
I
know.
said, I think there's a porn star. His name is Francois Sagat. He's well known, and what I like about his page, because I don't follow any porn pages, but I follow him and he follows me, is because his page is like horror film clips or stills and then some hot pictures of him and then some other stuff, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
this guy is different, this guy is unique, this guy has something else going on here that
right.
is attractive and whatever, whereas some of the other stuff I'm just like, yeah, you know. But you'll look at their numbers and they're like, "We got 500,000." I'm like, "Oh, well, it's because you're hot. That's what you're bringing to the table. Got it."
I know. I
Yeah.
try not to just follow guys that are hot on Instagram, but there are some that I just can't help, and
Oh,
I'm like, damn it.
listen, there's some hot ones that I follow too, of course.
Yeah,
But if you go into their engagement, it's the same thing. It's just fire emojis and
yeah,
good looking
yeah,
and hot. It's becomes a little boring to me if that's all that you have to bring to the table. Because I will say this, especially as we get older, looks fade. And
oh yeah,
if you do not have anything else to bring to the table, it's going to get even harder for you to get older. I have seen it in guys older than me. I spent some good time last year in Palm Springs, and I saw I saw the attempts and that's a generalization. There's some really wonderful people that live there, but it was really an older version of West Hollywood, and
yeah,
it was eye opening to me. There was some good, and then there was like, oh, 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 you know.
yeah.
So I would just say to anybody, don't just rest solely on your looks, because you have something else going on if you can, please.
You know, it's like Michelle Visage says, quit relying on that body.
Yeah, I know. But your body also changes when you get older.
Yeah. Oh
Those are
shit, believe me.
little things. I'm like, and then I know that there's all this Ozempic and all this kind of stuff too. But like, I mean, there's just even so that has issues too. So
Yeah,
it's just kind of like just. Mm. Wow, we talked a lot about a lot of things.
I know.
I will be interested to see where this lands. When is this going to air?
I haven't decided because I was for a minute there going bi-weekly, and then part of me wants to go every week, but that's a lot. So I guess probably not. Oh, wait, what's today? Saturday. I'm like, what day is it? What year is it?
It is Saturday, my friend.
Yeah, I'll probably do it bi-weekly. I just released one yesterday, so I'll probably
Yeah.
do it the week after next, just
Uh,
because I think that that's sensible.
Yeah. Well, you're breaking it up. I mean, as a marketing person, I would advise consistency if you can, so that
Oh yeah,
your listeners have a like, oh, okay, this is dropping on every Monday, or dropping every this, or dropping every that. Hence,
right, right.
hence the Mandic Monday model.
Oh
But yeah, no,
yeah,
definitely. Please let me know so I can obviously get it out there. I will certainly be like, you want to hear about you know, Manic Monday and Steve Rambo and Madonna and this and that and this and that and bathhouses and
Well, we didn't even really talk about Steve Rambo, but that's fine. That's another episode, right?
I'll say this because I know that some people, well, we'll talk about him for 5 minutes. Steve Rambo is still my friend. That's not his real name, of course. And we still talk every now and then. He doesn't live in California. And that time last year when I got to meet him in person was people were like, "How did you conjure that?" And I said, "That is literally the universe manifesting itself." I do believe in that kind of philosophy, but
Right.
it was crazy that that happened. Um, he was marveled, I think, by the whole, everything. But the fact that he felt so comfortable with me to meet with me, to talk with me beforehand, to do interviews, and to continue to talk with me. Um, I say this in a good way. He's of an older age, um, uh, and I will always kind of be concerned and care about what happens to him. And if I'm ever at a place where I can help, I would. Um,
Yeah.
but like I said, he's quite the character. But I will say we had some flirty moments when we met in person, and because people are like, "You saw his dick, didn't you? You did stuff or whatever." I'm like,
Oh
"Oh,
my God.
we didn't do anything." I can absolutely say that, but there was some flirting, and that was not
Sometimes
expected.
that's even better.
Well, the fact that that was even happening, in my mind, I was like, "Wait, what? Oh, he actually finds me attractive. Wait, what? I did not expect that. Not to self-deprecate myself or anything like that, but I just wasn't. This is a guy who has slept with some of the fucking best-looking men, and
Yeah.
so I was a little surprised by that. But uh, he's
Well, and
doing
for those of you who don't know, what 80s porn star?
He was very big in the late 90s. Like I would say, was the top porn star in the late 90s for sure.
Oh,
There
okay.
was no one
Okay.
else that was commanding that like kind of presence, and he had a fan club, and Catalina was all behind him, no pun intended. And he was winning Grabby awards, and I actually have one of his Grabby awards. He gave it to me, which was
Oh,
just kind of really cool. He but he didn't he never acted to me like he was ever the shit or the big deal. I'm like, yeah, but you were. Did you not know? I was like, nah, I just was doing all these films and getting paid and everything. I'm like, yeah, but you were like the king. You were like the top of the game. Like, you were doing this stuff. And he didn't really see it that way. He enjoyed the time for what it was, and when he left it for good reason.
yeah.
And I'm just glad that he's alive. Number one, not
Right.
all porn stars from that time period
Yeah.
or before him make it.
Yeah.
And although he has certainly gone through some rough times, because he's talked to me about them, um, nothing that I would share, of course, that's private.
Well,
But I'm just glad that he's still around, and he still looks pretty good. I mean, again, uh, it's very easy to let it go. I tried. Ray Harley was another porn star that I had a theme with a while. I had a mustache and everything, and I also talked to him, and I almost got to meet him in December of last year, but I came down with a horrific flu, and that got forwarded.
yeah.
So eventually I will. But he was kind of like, I called Ray Harley. Steve Rambo was like the dynasty of my page, and when I was doing Ray Harley, he was like the Colbys. It wasn't
Yeah.
quite the same,
Yeah.
same reaction that Steve Rambo had. So
Now, I will admit this, and I probably shouldn't, but who cares, you know?
mhm.
So there is, I mean, not a porn star, but I mean, I guess the what equates to a porn star nowadays is probably like OnlyFans people.
Yeah.
But there is an OnlyFans guy that I followed for a while, and I was like, okay, and he was in town, and I actually got to sleep with him.
Oh, well,
And
look
so
at
that was
you.
like, yeah, so that was good.
Yeah,
So that
that
was
in my younger days, there might have been some people that I like, oh, okay, we're in the same sex club, and I've seen you in a porn, and you don't know that I've seen you in a porn, and I've actually slept with you, and now I'm sleeping with you, and that's kind of hot, and I, in my head,
yeah.
and those things happen, and it is kind
Uh-huh.
of cool because you're sort of merging your fantasy with, and look, there are some whenever I go on X Hamster, if there's a couple of guys where if they were right in front of me, I'd be like, can I sleep with you? Like, because there's
Yeah.
still that kind of thing. But I don't know. I don't know. What maybe that's how we should end this one. I don't know where to end it, but that sounds like, well,
I know.
we'll leave it
That's
on the
yeah,
cliffhangers.
sleeping with porn stars.
Sleeping with
There we
porn
go.
star. But at least I got to, we got to talk about Steve in here. So that's
Yeah,
good.
definitely. Because I know that's a big part of your page.
And people miss him, and
Yeah,
people miss the clips, but you know, unintentionally having a series finale where I met him
yeah,
was a shock to a lot of people, and it was a shock to me, and it was a perfect way of doing a story arc. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
And I didn't plan it that way, but it was just absolutely perfect that I felt that there was no need to extend the clips. Or but by the way, I had run out of clips. I mean, I had literally gone through so many. Do you know how
Oh my God.
do people know how many scenes of Steve Rambo and his sexcapades I actually sifted through and went through online to find the non-sexual ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a thing. But he's a wonderful guy. He's a little out there, but he's wonderful. So, well, it was
Well, we love
very,
that.
very uh, good talking
Yeah,
to you. I
it's been
didn't quite know
fun.
how this was going to turn out, but I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I always worry that like I'm gonna like get somebody on here and then it's gonna be that one episode that never airs because
because
there's just
because people pause and they don't know what they're talking, and they don't know how to talk, right?
yeah, I guess I mean like I said, I'm in my Oprah era, so I'm just able to like draw it out. I don't know. Like I had one of my friends that was on one of the episodes before, she's like, well, your voice is just really soothing and you're so easy to talk to. And I'm like,
That's
cool.
true. That is I she absolutely right. And also, I think it's really good that you're continuing to do this because by doing it more, you're also just honing your interviewing skills, anyways,
Oh yeah.
and letting the guest. And by the way, the fact that you've let me speak probably too much. That's the that in my mind. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, the listeners are going to be like, oh Jeff, shut up.
Well,
Um,
I talk too much as it is in my regular life anyway, so it's good to let other people. And
oh,
but I'm fascinated with what they have to say, and that's the whole point of this is wisdom through conversation. And I
well,
want to
yeah.
learn about people and human nature. No pun
Oh
intended.
no, right. But I don't know what anyone, you or listeners, will glean from their lives after listening to me ramble on about whatever. But if something registers or something is a light bulb, then even if it's just one person, then that's great. And I
Yeah.
honestly, uh there's I'm a pretty open book. There's a lot of things, as I've said earlier, that I don't share because they're sad, or I try to really keep the page to be levity, because I think that there's so much chaos and crap going on in the world right now that so many people are dealing with, that I feel like what I can bring to the table consistently still is some levity. Now,
Oh yeah.
this isn't to say that I am not humor. Sorry, that I I am not laughing 24/7 in my life, and there are some
Right.
things that will upset me, and if they upset me to a point where I feel like I need to express them on the page, then I may do that. Like when Roe versus Wade got overturned, I
Right.
was very
Right.
upset, and I was upset because a lot of women were upset, and they have every right to be, and women mean
Yeah.
everything to me.
Yeah.
But I stay away from politics. I learned years ago to kind of I know what I know how I'm voting. I know what my feelings are. I know whatever. And I just don't feel like politics need to be on my page. I
Yeah.
just can't, won't do it.
Right.
Also, sensitive topics that are going on in the world right now. I just
Oh
no,
yeah,
won't
I
go in.
won't. I've had too many fights with people, and I don't feel like I can say a lot about that because
Right.
it's gone bad.
Right, and that's where it's kind of like there. I get it. There's passion and there's
Yeah,
reasons for that passion, but
yeah,
the issues can be thorny, very
yeah.
thorny. And I'm like, you know what? Jeffrey Mixed brand. Yeah, I don't want it to be. I don't want my brand to be like that. I want people to at least, hey, look, at the end of the day, I mean well.
Yeah.
I think I'm a good person. I think that gets projected out because there's some stuff where, it feels a little mean spirited on my page, but it really isn't. You know what? I told this to somebody yesterday. This is a good way to end. If you have made my page, and if you've made my page multiple times, even if it seems like I'm dragging them like a wild orchid or whatever like that, actually, it means I am highly entertained by you and I kind of love you. And even if your intentions of entertainment were maybe intended in one way and they came off in another way. Point is, if you've made my page, even if you're some goof lady on a commercial or whatever, I just think you're awesome. That's the way that I view it. So
Yeah, it obviously sparked some joy enough to, I mean, I hate using that term, but enough for you to share it with everybody else. So,
absolutely. And people are like, how do you decide or whatever? And there's this old Faye Dunaway movie called The Eyes of Laura Mars, and I just said
yes,
it's the eyes of Jeffrey Mixed.
Jeffrey
That's
Mix.
it. Just if it filters in and I get it, and then I get it. And the thing is, I get recommendations or suggestions all the time, and I really appreciate it. And sometimes I take them, and sometimes I don't. I don't ever want anybody to ever think that like, oh, this wasn't good enough, whatever. It just has to hit me. But there is some content that will come in when like, okay, if this is racist, yeah, this can't go through. Or
Right, right.
like I don't use anything with the C word in there because that's, people can say it on the page if they want to say,
Cowboy?
no, not cowboy. You know what the C word is. Come on.
Oh, cunt.
Yeah, you just said it, and I didn't.
Ew.
I didn't. But point is I can't use any clips. I
I
don't.
know.
I won't because here's the other thing too. Almost half of my viewers are women, which I was
Right.
shocked by learning that years ago, looking at the analytics, and because so many are women. I'm going to be respectful anyways. I wouldn't have used any clips with the word Z in it anyways, just because
Right.
that's other words I can use, P or whatever. That's the pussy word. Every now and then that can be thrown in, and it's not too much. But it depends on how it's being said, who's saying
Right.
it, and what the clip
Right.
is. But I'm just very very conscious because once something goes up on social media, it's
Yeah.
magnified. You know this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know this.
Yeah, that's why I mean the current situation I don't talk about, but I mean I do say, some things that, I do get into politics sometimes. I have used the F word many
Oh,
times,
same
and
here.
I think it's because I've been called it so many times in my entire life that I've become desensitized to it. And I don't know, but
Oh, so
it is.
that word I have no problem with using. But
Yeah.
again, if you put it on a clip and Instagram will knock it down. So
Oh
that's kind
yeah.
of it's one of those things where it's like if I try to put up a Valley of the Dolls clip where somebody's saying,
Oh yeah.
you know how bitchy fags can be. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna strike that word. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of like, yeah, I've learned from trial and error, and also I've watched other accounts get decimated or banned or shadow banned forever
Yeah.
or penalized for content. I'm very very careful of the language and the use because I know that it pushed the envelope. I've been reported, obviously. I had to go private at one point,
Oh my.
and I turned it back to public quietly. Oh yeah, it's always a little bit of a roller coaster. And I will say this, and but if like tomorrow the page got taken down permanently or whatever like that, of course it
Yeah.
would be hard. It would feel like a grief, but I would also be able to be like, oh my God, I've been working this through since 2017. This is a pretty good ride. So continues to
Yeah.
still be.
Well, and you could always rebuild and regenerate and become something else. You could reinvent yourself.
Maybe. I would say at this point, I'd be like, I don't know. I'd be just like, I'll be like, is there a, I don't know. Don't even know what I would rebrand myself. I still don't even know if I'm branding myself into as one of my friends jokingly calls me, a new international pop star.
Well,
So
I think you're pretty branded by now. I mean, the fact it's just funny how many people that I know follow you and like are there are a lot of you've got a lot of followers. You got a lot of people that are you're on their radar.
well, honestly, I really thank people, and also I would continue to like to grow just
Yeah,
because I think that the humor and the community that we have going on benefits from it with more people seeing it because
yeah,
people love feeling, if people are on the ground floor of something, we all like to feel that they're like, oh yeah, I've known that, page, or I've known that person, or I've known that whatever for years ago. It's kind of a cool thing. I've done it, we've all done it with other people.
yeah,
So it would be nice to see it expand, but that being said, I am so beyond fine and grateful for what I have. I've always
yeah.
have, and I never thought I would get to a fucking 100,000.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
wild.
when that happened. I was like, oh my God. And so some people noticed and they're like, are you going to do anything? And I said, no, because I don't want to call attention to it. I'm only bringing it up because I'm feeling comfortable on this podcast, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to post anything about it because I also don't want people to think that numbers are everything,
Oh
because
yeah.
people can have, like we just talked about, you have models that have 500,000 followers or
Yeah.
whatever like that, but their comments are just boring. And then you have somebody who has 500 followers and all
Hmm.
of their followers are engaged. That
Yeah.
to me is more important, is engagement, not the
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah. Like I was excited to just have one listener, one follower, and I don't really even know how many followers I have on the Tramadonna page. And I appreciate everyone that's there, but I'm not tracking it going, oh my God, I need this many. And it's just important the people that do listen and I do interact with, and
Yeah.
that I have people that'll reach out to me and they're like, "Oh my God, I listened to your episode." And then I have friends that like comment and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I do that all the time," or this or that. And so it's just the fact that it can engage people in a positive way. I
Isn't that
haven't
a
had any
good?
bad feedback yet, but it'll happen.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I can give you a piece of advice. When you start getting bad feedback, that's actually good, because that means
Yeah.
you're eliciting reaction, and that it's being seen more. Because believe me, I've had some things leveled at me, and that's okay. I'm good with it.
Yeah.
You also can't please everybody. And
Oh
there's
no.
absolutely no way that my brand of humor is going to please everybody, just like your brand of humor and your take isn't gonna do it either, and everybody else's. So
Yeah.
well, this was honestly awesome, wonderful,
Yes.
and I would totally be up for doing this again in the future if this is a popular episode.
Oh yeah.
But
I
so
keep
you
having this idea in my head, like I want to do like almost like a round table thing, but I would be afraid that like nobody would hear anything because everybody be trying to talk. Like have
you
to have a
know
moderator or something.
well, but what's really funny is that I've gone to friends' places where it's me and nine other guys, and we're all kind of like entertainers, so to speak. And there is that sort of
Yeah.
like, well, I'm talking while I'm talking, and there's that jumping in over thing. But it can work if it's the right people. But yes, it can be a little tricky. But I mean, it can work. People do that stuff all the. Think about when they have like Melrose reunions, and they have like
Oh yeah.
all the people on a Zoom call. It's like, oh, they all learned how to do it. So
Yeah.
What is say this again. What is the name of your the Madonna? Sorry,
Oh,
your
it's Tramadonna.
trauma. I'm
Like
thinking
trauma and Madonna together. Tramadonna.
trauma Madonna. Was I?
No, Tramadonna.
Oh, trauma. Okay, got it. Trauma
Yeah.
Donna. There we go. Oh, there
My
we
friend
go.
Ricky created it because I was like,
Okay.
I told him I was thinking of doing a podcast. And he's like, "What would you want to talk about?" I'm like, "I love Madonna. I love Halloween. I've been writing a book about my childhood trauma." He's like, "Call it Tramadama."
I love
Perfect.
it. That's good. Good. Well, I was looking at it right now. Obviously, I'm following it now, so I just wanted to double check. And when I'm posting about it, I want to call it out. So,
Yeah.
um, wonderful way to end a Saturday. And it's a little
Yes.
later for you, but I'm going to eat a little bit more food and then call it a night myself. This is what happens at 52. Also, when you go to a concert and you come home at 1 o'clock, even if you've not had anything to drink, the next day still feels like a hangover. Just that's this is what happens as we get older. I'm like, really? Uh,
I'm
so
supposed to go to a blackout party at some like leather slash bear bar. We'll
Oh
see.
my! You're definitely more. You're more. That it's funny because Pride obviously started today,
Right.
and there's all these activities going on, and I just don't have the. I just don't have it in me to do that. No judgments or any of that
Yeah.
stuff. I'm just like, I'm good. I got several episodes of Hacks that I need to finish, and
Oh my God, it's so good. I can't wait
I
for the next season.
I know. Don't. I mean,
Uh,
I stopped a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, yeah, I need to get caught up. So,
yeah. Yeah.
anyways, great
Definitely
talking.
enjoy.
Keep in
You
touch.
too.
Thank you, and let me know when this airs, and I will
Of
certainly
course.
certainly push it, and I hope people will come over and give you a bump. Of course, that's always the my hope is I'm always very grateful when somebody like yourself comes to me and says, "Hey, do you want to do an interview?" And I always hope that it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah. Well, tell people how to find you. Was it Jeffreymixed?
Jeffreymixed, Jeff Jeffreymixed. A lot of I've learned, especially with a song, that people will spell it Jeffery, um,
Yeah.
which is not correct, but it's an easy mistake. Or it's not Jeff Mixed. It's certainly not Geoff.
Geoff.
Geoff. Believe me, some people, it's been, and it's not Jeffy mixed, Jeff mixed. Oh, I've had
Oh
it
my God.
all. I've had it all.
All
Very
right. Well,
good.
thank you so much, everyone. If you're listening, if you've made it to this point, go follow Jeffrey.
Thank you. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
Take
All
care.
right.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Oh.